Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet. This review covers the 2012 Corvette Coupe in 1/25th scale. It's AMT model kit number 756. Released as part of the Showroom's Replica series in 2012, this kit is still available at online retailers, and you can find them at discounted prices. Now, the kit is a skill level 2 for intermediate builders, as it requires glue and paint. You'll get about 40 parts molded in black, chrome, and clear with vinyl tires, metal axles and screws, and water slide decals. It has typical fold-out sheet instructions from AMT, and it's a curbside kit. It has no motor with simplified assembly. It's one step above a snap kit. Optionally, the interior is nicely detailed, and it has a finish that doesn't actually require painting. It looks pretty good just the way it is, and the chassis details are all molded in, and they can be picked out for a reasonable looking undercarriage. This is a great transition kit for the novice that wants to upgrade their skills to a glue kit. It provides great looking exterior detail along with exciting subject matter, yet it's an easy builder due to the low parts count. The body is molded in several pieces, but it can be fully assembled prior to paint for a great finish. Overall dimensions are length 7.5 inches, width 3 inches, and height 2.5 inches. Here's the layout of the kit's contents. Now, some people would call this an open box review, and they'd pick up each piece and show it to you and say something if they can find some words. But it really won't help you build the kit, and you can actually see all the parts right here in about 10 seconds. So here's my version of the open box review. Now, folks, just as a reminder, when you're using any of the products that I mention here, be sure to use the manufacturer's suggested usage guidelines for that, just for your own safety. And also know that we use generally Model Masters cement. Sometimes, though, we use super glue for strength and clear glue or white glue for clear parts. As far as paint goes, quite often we'll use the Tamiya bottle paints that we shoot through an airbrush, or rattle can paints for things like primer. Just make sure your paints are compatible. First, go over the parts that you're going to use for your build and check over the instructions just to get an idea of what you're going to do. Now, I noticed when I looked at the body, inside on top is the copyright script, and while it's fairly innocuous there, it can bleed through light colored paint. So I took a little lacquer thinner, or you can use some sandpaper, and just remove that copyright script so there's no chance of it ruining your paint job. You'll also find that there's some parting line flash here on the top of the crown of the front fascia. So you're going to want to lightly sand that off and smooth it out. And you'll notice too that there's going to be some light flash that corresponds to that on the fender wells. So on the top of the fenders, you're going to want to take some nice fine sandpaper, about 600 grit, and smooth that out too. And we're also going to put the front and rear fascias onto the vehicle. We're going to glue them into place, and that back fascia goes into place with some holes. And we're also going to install the side view mirrors as well. That's so we can get a good overall paint job. If you find that you need any filler where you've attached them, although the parts here fit just perfectly, you'll do that and clean that up at this time. Once you have those fascias glued into place and you've cleaned up any blemishes, go ahead and give the body an overall sanding with some fine sandpaper, at least 800 grit, and then prime it inside and out. Use a good quality primer. I use some Duplicolor medium gray for this particular project. After the body had dried from primer, I gave it a nice smooth sanding with some 800 grit paper, real light, and then I spray painted the entire thing inside and out with a color called Meringue by Krylon. It's a fairly new milky yellow color. Reminds me of the 68 Pontiacs. And then I let that dry thoroughly. After the body color had dried thoroughly, I turned it over and painted the interior, upper interior portions with a flat black color to match the rest of the interior. Now you can get out these parts as shown here, the interior pieces, along with you know, the chassis pan and some of the extension pieces there, and we're going to give them a gray primer just like we did the body, so that all those pieces can dry and get ready for assembly events. And once those pieces were dried, I sprayed them with some flat black spray, and then as far as the undercarriage goes, as you've noticed, all the detail is molded in. There's no extra pieces there, so detailing is basically a straight-on province. So you're going to want to, if you'd like to, pick it out, paint the mufflers, and of course the tailpipes, the silver. The aluminum shades can go on the transmission and the engine. I painted the oil filter there with some orange paint, and then I used a little gloss coat to pick out a semi-gloss coat to pick out the suspension pieces, and that's about all you can do. But it makes for a nice presentation if you pick up the kit and give it a quick look over there. I think it adds a nice touch to the kit, although like I said, the detail is difficult to paint because it's molded in. So I just touched the tops of it, and from a straight-on view it looks pretty nice. Now basically the interior pieces for this car are flat black. The interior of the Corvette's generally a very understated thing, but you can do some things to give it a little pizzazz. And so once you've got the steering wheel and the dash painted flat black and the head has dried, you can add the decals that come with the kit. And they're pretty nice, and I also put a little bit of gloss paint over the instrument panel gauges and the video screens there, but I touched up some of the buttons with a silver prisma pencil, and I also added the Corvette decal there, which is the spare from the decal sheet that goes onto the right rear fascia, but I just felt that it gave the interior a needed uplift so that it could be seen from outside and give it some kind of personality. Now grab those tires and wheels out of the kit and notice that the front and rear wheels are different in size. The rear wheels are wider, both the tires and the mag wheels themselves. So put those together, and I added a little black wash to the wheel nuts there and the emblem to give it a little pizzazz. It's also a nice touch that they added tire valves there for you to pick out. Now the wheels, in my opinion, they look better when they've got a little tread wear. So rough those up on a sheet of 220 sandpaper, like the ones in the above photo there. And then you'll also want to start working on the brake calipers and rotors. I painted those silver, and then the hubs and back are black, flat black, and then I started to add some black wash, which is a 50-50 mix of flat black and thinner to highlight those cross-drilled holes, and I painted the calipers a transparent red. Now you can gather all the parts that you see here, including the exhaust tips and the metal axles, the brake calipers and the wheels and the undercarriage. And notice also that the metal axles are not the same length. One's a little bit longer. We're going to use that in the rear with the wider tires back there. So go ahead and install the exhaust tips, and then you're going to glue the calipers and brake rotors into place with a little tab on each. Note that the calipers point in towards the center of the car. on each side. Also, note that there are larger ones for the back than there are for the front, so put those into the right place and assemble your undercarriage. Now we're going to start working on the interior in section 3, and as you can see, there's not a lot of detail there, but there is some. So once again, I used a silver prisma pencil to highlight some of the bright work that you'd find on the interior of the Corvette, and you can go ahead and do that, or you can use a sharpie or some silver paint. Now there's a couple of knobs and buttons likewise that you'll find available on the interior door panels, and you can do the same kind of treatment with those, because as you look into the vehicle, there's not too much to see, and it's kind of difficult because it's so dark, and so a little highlighting goes a long way in presentation. So now we're going to take all those pieces, put them together along with the shift knob there and the dash. And also there's a couple of decals that are applied to the headrests on the seats, and we're going to assemble the entire interior assembly. At this time, first I would put the shift knob in, then apply a little some super glue to the bottom of that seat slot and install the seats. Then one side wall, to get that into position, and then you're going to install the steering wheel into the dash, and then the dash into position on the left side wall, and then add it to the right side wall. And then this is what your completed interior will look like, and highlight any additional highlighted items that you think might improve the appearance, and she can make a pretty credible display, even though it's pretty minimalist and flat black. Now it's time to install the interior tub to the chassis pan, and there's a couple of posts. There are two large posts there that run through the transmission tunnel on top, and you simply locate those posts into the receivers on the interior pan and glue those into position. It fits real well. It's a good fit, and once you've got that into position, set her into place and let her dry, and now you've got a rolling chassis to build the rest of your kit on. A part of the great looks of the Corvette and this model are the beautiful glass that's front and back here, and so I decided to take and do something a little bit different with it by adding some heavy tint to the rear window, and of course there's always the window surrounds that accompany that front window. So I took some low-tack tape, and it's important you use that because it doesn't leave any residue on the glass. And I covered up the front window and then the outside half of the rear window. Then I took and added about 2 light coats of Tester's tint. It's a black window tint paint that they make, and it gives a nice even coloration, just like a regular tinted window. And once that was dry, I used some of the new Tamiya tape that's made to be a bendable tape. It will follow curves and contours a little better, and so I used that to tape off the inside, and then painted those areas of the surround flat black. I wanted to personalize my car, so I printed out my logo on a plain piece of paper using a inkjet printer, covered it up with a piece of clear cellophane glossy tape, and then cut it out and trimmed it to fit for my license plate tab. Now gather these parts, and you'll note that the front fascia turn signal bezels are painted flat black, and the lighting that goes in to the headlight areas, that's painted a chrome color. Add a little clear red tint paint your turn signal red to the tail light lenses there, and after all of those have dried, gather those up and we'll start assembly of the body. So now you can insert the headlight lighting there, and as you can see, it snaps into place. I put a little dab of glue there, but I don't think you'll need it. But you might have to use a little force to put those into place through those holes, and I actually used a small implement to push those in, and then they should stay into place and provide your headlighting. And you can see the lighting equipment here that's protruding through the portals on the front headlight areas. It's a pretty tight fit depending on how much paint you've got there, but just seat those into place and make sure that they stay in position. Now we can start detailing the body with decals and some detail accents. Go ahead and apply all the decals to the exterior of the body, the side markers, etc. And I also went and in the back end where the taillight bezels are, painted that with a new product to me called the Molotov chrome pen. It's really amazing how shiny they've made that chrome look. So nice reflectivity there for the taillights. Then I went back and trimmed the exterior with a black Sharpie because that's what it looks like on the regular car. So I added my ROR license plate and all of the decals on the exterior of the body. And in the front, of course, you've got some side marker lights and the Corvette wing there. So go ahead and finish those and put them into place. And that will be followed up with a coat of clear paint. Now, I like to use automotive urethane paints because of their durability and shine. But you can use anything that's compatible with your base color coat. I also you need to trim the window posts with some satin black. That goes around the main post there and across the cowl where the wipers are, and then up the roof on the drip edge, and then down the back side of the A-pillar. Now you can use some of that black wash to highlight the recess areas in the grille. Once again, that's a mix of 50-50 flat black and thinner. Just put that in there and then clean off everything else on the grille and the grid and the surrounding pan. So with all the exterior pieces in place, this is what your body will look like at this point. And like I said, I really was attracted to that nice mellow yellow tone. So I think this overall this body came out pretty well. And with a showroom replica car, the exterior finish is basically the highlight or the high point of your build. This is the rear of the vehicle with the smoked glass for the rear window there, and as you can see through it, but it's still it's pretty dark with two coats of tint. So it gives it that mystique of privacy and power. I think you might like this, so give it a try. So now we're going to install the body onto the chassis, and it's pretty tight fit with all the body pieces put together. But if you start at the rear at an angle there, and then just slowly lower the front end down towards the front there, spread the body sides out a little bit, and she'll snap right into place. Then all that's left is to turn it over and use the 4 screws provided and the 4 screw holes there. They're pretty easy to spot, and a small screwdriver to use the Phillips head screws there and tighten that down so that you've got a good solid build for your display. There's a few more detailing tips that I applied and I'd like to explain here. The kit comes with some decals for the mirror faces, but they're not real impressive, and with the contour inside this mirror cavity here, they don't really fit well. So I suggest just applying some silver paint, or in this case I used that Molotov chrome pen with a 2mm tip to give a nice mirror finish to the inside of these mirrors. Also, for the high stop tail light there, I just use a piece of 1/32 pinstriping tape cut to length and put into place. And as you notice on the right side there, the tail light bezel is pointed out. The outside rim of that is black, so you need to include that as well. And finally, you see my ROR. Put a custom plate on your kit and make it your own. Well, there you have it. This great looking Corvette kit has been repopped a couple of times in different varieties from AMT. It's an excellent fitting kit. Everything is just perfectly fit and goes together well. All the plastic receivers are well designed, so there's no questions about part placement. The panel lines look pretty good. In some cases you may want to scribe those a little bit deeper to make sure that they show up in the finished product, especially with a light color paint like this where you're adding multiple coats to get a good color hue. But you can do a lot of different things with these kits. This one is basically box stock. All we did was put a nice color on it, add some smoked windows, a few detail appointments here and there, but the stock decals are in place, enhancing the look of the wheels with a little of that black thinner combination, and the grille really goes a long way. But just finishing it off as you normally would. This is a gorgeous looking kit and display, and it's a beautiful car to use as a tweener kit. That's someone who's between glue and snap kits, to give them some experience with decals and detail finishing without the hassles of all the intricate construction of a full glue kit. So I think you're going to love it. Maybe you'll want to put one of these on your shelf. Well, we hope you liked this premium scale model kit review, and so that you don't miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. But you can also find us on Facebook and on the web at www.rightonreplicas.com. Thanks.